Hello, and thanks everyone who get the time to attend the session live. My name is Ivaylo Ivanov. I'm a VMware engineer at Runecast, and today I will show you how we use vRO in our CI/CD pipeline. So we'll start with explanation of the problem which I was facing personally. Then we'll look at the solution which I decided on. We'll move forward into reviewing the implementation, and at the end you'll get your time back to do more productive stuff. So what was the problem? There are too many unnecessary test instances consuming resources. So at Runecast we create a software which is being delivered as OVA. So during our dev and test process, there are a lot of instances which are being deployed on daily basis, and in the end of the day, it's not clear if any of them can be deleted. There is no clear indication who owns the virtual machine, and there is a periodical manual cleanup, which actually this guy down there, that's me, chasing out the development team and asking, guys, can we delete this one? Can we delete that VM? And yeah, usually you don't get a straight answer, right? And yeah, I would also like to thank our dev and QA team, because I actually didn't have to make up those VM names over there. I just replaced our application name with app, but the rest is courtesy of our teams. All right, so moving forward to the solution. So I wanted to do it in a way which will help our dev and QA team. So this is the target audience. I wanted them to use a tool which they're familiar with and they use on daily basis. So in this case, this is our tool for continuous integration and continuous deployment. We use Jenkins. Behind the scenes, I decided to use vRO. That's one of my favorite automation tools for VMware. And I will be deploying and managing the VMs on one of our environments. Basically, the end goal is to have an interactive and easy to use way, and also to manage the virtual machines, the whole deployment process, which VMs can be deleted, who owns them, and so on. And also I wanted to limit the number of tools for the end user, which in this case is our dev and QA team. So they would log into the same interface which they're used to every day. And speaking of this interface, this is Jenkins, so let's start with the implementation. So we have a pipeline which would deploy from OVA. So they can deploy any version of our software, starting from 1.0 up to the latest one. So whenever they need to do some regression testing or upgrade from specific version to the latest one, they have the freedom to do so. They can provide version suffix for the virtual machine if they can name it in some like meaningful way. And also they can choose a lifetime. This is the drop down over there. So after some tough negotiations with the team, we agreed that we'll have a lifetime of the virtual machines for 24 hours, 48 hours, and unlimited. Yeah, I caved a bit there, but yeah, we needed this as well. In terms of plugins that we use in Jenkins, specifically for to achieve this functionality, we use HTTP request plugin, which I utilize in order to call vRO and to pass some parameters and to start a workflow from there. In addition to that, we use the user build vars plugin, which allows me to use the username and email address of the currently logged in person, because we are using Active Directory authentication. So thanks to this plugin, I already have in my contacts the username and the password of the requester. So from vSender point of view, I created custom attributes where we will store who created the virtual machine and what's the contact email for this person. The VM lifetime is tracked by VC tags. So we will have tags for each of those time frames. So 24 hours, 48 hours, unlimited, and actually there is one more tag which is called cooldown. So there is a cooldown period because let's say after reaching the lifetime of the virtual machine, first we're going to shut it down, keep it off for a predefined time, which is the cooldown time, and only then, if the VM is still not needed, only then it will get deleted. From vRO point of view, I decided to store the VMware metadata in vRO configuration element. I wanted to keep the things simpler without introducing some kind of database and so on. So yeah, it will be pretty easy for you guys to replicate similar setup. So in the configuration element, I will store the ID of the virtual machine, and the value, that big number over there which you see, it's the date of deployment or date of when the VM lifetime has been extended. We'll get there a bit later, and it's in milliseconds. Yeah, so in terms of workflows, we have 3 main workflows and a bunch of helper workflows. That's how I used to do things in vRO. I recommend you this way. Usually when I start to work on some project, I all the time create this helpers workflow folder where I put like workflows which can be reused in different wrapper workflows. So the main workflows in this case would be to deploy new virtual machines, which will going to be start from Jenkins. There will be additional workflow to extend VM lifetime, which again will be started from Jenkins. And there will be a scheduled workflow, which in our case runs every 2 hours, and it will check the current state of the virtual machines. So yeah, deploying the virtual machine is, let's say, pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to spend time on this. So we'll move to the scheduled workflow, which checks the VM lifecycle. It looks pretty simple. We start with getting all the virtual machines from the folder where we deploy them, and then we iterate through all of them. And that's where things are getting a bit more complicated. So we will check whether or not this virtual machine is managed by vRO in this first decision, which you see on the second workflow. Then we'll get the current VM tag, and then based on it we'll check what is the time life of this virtual machine. Is it 24 hours? Is it 48? Is it unlimited? So after that, this switch element would pass the needed parameters to the calculate action workflow, which is right here. So in here will be actually the place where we'll calculate whether or not an action is required, and an action can be either like the time has been reached, so we need to shut down the virtual machine, or the time is reached and the virtual machine was already powered off, so we need to delete it. Of course, when we're taking some action, or when we're actually about to take some action, we'll be notifying the requester or the owner of the virtual machine about our intentions. We're doing this by an email. So in this case, we're about to shut down his virtual machine in 2 hours. So he has a time to react if he still needs it on and he's working on it. So as you can see in the second row, there is I provide him also the VM ID, which he can use in Jenkins pipeline, which I'll show a bit later. This is another email notification example where we're saying that the VM is already shut down and it will be automatically deleted after a certain amount of time. So again, if the VM is still needed, there is a possibility for the requester to take action and to extend the VM lifetime. And here is how he can do it. Basically, this is another Jenkins pipeline where he can provide the VM ID and to choose a new lifetime. It can be the same as before, or he can move to 48 hours or to unlimited if needed. That's how it looks, the workflow for to extend the VM lifetime. Looks a bit complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. In case of failure, there is a default handler there which will notify the requester by email that we couldn't fulfill his request, so he can reach out to some admin. In this case, would be me most likely, and we can check what went wrong. Otherwise, again, we would first convert the virtual machines based on this ID which was provided. We will convert it to actual VC virtual machine objects which we can take actions on. We will get the VM tag, we will calculate whether and what action is required. So we may need to switch the tag to different lifetime, or just to keep the same tag but just update the date in the configuration element with the date of when the Jenkins pipeline was executed. And again, at the end, we'll send an email notification like stating that the VM lifetime has been extended. And again, each 2 hours we'll be checking whether the lifetime is reached or not, and we'll continue with the status notifications. Your VM is going to be shut down, or its shutdown is going to be deleted. And in fact, before deletion, 2 hours before that, we're again notifying the user that the VM is going to be deleted. If you still need it, you still have time to take some action. Otherwise, it's gone. So, to quickly wrap up, the main goal was to provide the ability for the users to manage their VMs themselves. This results in better resource utilizations for our vSphere infrastructure. There are not so many VMs lying around, and nobody knows whether we can either delete them or can we power them off. So it's pretty painful to track down like who's the owner and so on. However, if they still provision some VMs with unlimited time frame, we pretty easy can track them back to who requested them. We have their name and email address, so we can easily like ask them whether or not they still need them. And yeah, at the end, I can focus on like what's next and do additional improvements. So we have a bit of like alignment issues. I exported all of those workflows. They're available in my GitHub profile, so you can get them there. The repository name is Runecast-vRO. If you have any questions, you can either catch me up now right after the presentation, or you can find me on Twitter. I think the handler is still visible. And my email is ivaylo.ivanov@runecast.com. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know.